What's going on, everybody? Welcome to our new episode of Shaws and King. I think this is our 11th episode out here with
Yep.
Keith and Weapon X, aka Farnoosh. And last week we were talking about holidays, and I was actually thinking today we kind of wanted to talk about the whole self improvement thing, right? Um, self improvement, these motivational videos that you might come across on YouTube, these books that people recommend you, these subreddits that people tell you to find, right? Or sometimes it's like a lifestyle, right? So, for example, someone's going through some tough shit, and then your friend will say, "You know what you need, dude? You need like to get involved in like self improvement, as if it's like a prescription to like a problem you have." I mean, like it's funny, and sometimes I mean, the idea is pretty noble. Like, I mean, there's nothing wrong with wanting to like every day become a better person, a stronger person, a healthier person, and to become the strongest version of yourself. That itself is not bad. Uh, I actually think there are many empowering aspects to the whole self improvement thing on online. But for those who are listening and don't know what we're talking about, like self improvement, we're not really necessarily talking about the verb, like to actually like improve on things you want to improve on, but kind of kind of like a community, a a type of almost like a religious lifestyle that you'll find online, where you'll find this like insanely positive content on YouTube, and
Hmm.
it's like a brand, right? Tony Robbins, for example. But I mean, and granted, a lot of these guys are good dudes. Tony Robbins, I'm sure, is a great dude. I would say Gary Vee is one of these people. And again, I like Gary Vee. No disrespect to Gary Vee. Shout out to Gary Vee if he ever listens to this episode. I think because I think like at the end of the day, like, we could all use positivity. We're in a world where I guess we're always told, like we're always kind of given our limits. We're like our parents, our teachers, our boss, always telling us what we can't do. Never really, like we're always kind of told that we can't go this far in life. Mediocrity is kind of sold to us as children, and I think this kind of makes us like really angry growing up, right? Or it leaves us wanting. So I think like we get exposed to this self improvement stuff, and we get excited. And I think I can go so many different avenues with this because
Yeah.
I've experienced, I've been involved with this stuff. Keith, I know you have, and Farnoosh, before we went live, you said that you had a friend who kind of got into some parts of this, right? So
Yeah.
uh yeah, so there's I would say this, there's some really good elements to self-improvement, um and but I also think there are some unhelpful and borderline toxic things that come with self-improvement, mainly being and that I think it's mainly like mental masturbation, right? Because
Yeah.
you read a book, great, then you read a second book, great, then you read the third book, great, but after you can only really I mean, like, I would honestly say there's only a few books, if when it comes to self improvement, at least, that you really need. You know, like I would say, like, how many YouTube videos do you really need to know? Because I mean, like, at the end of the day, they all teach you the same thing. They just word it differently, but it all just comes down to you need to meditate. You need to you need to eat right and exercise. uh and then some will get fancy with it, like they'll talk about cold showers, for example, or they'll talk about how you got to wake up at 5 a.m, right, every day.
Yeah. No
uh
fap.
no fap, that's an interesting one. And honestly, like none of these are bad. Not technically, there is technically nothing wrong with getting up at 5 a.m. There is nothing wrong with experimenting with withholding masturbation, experimenting with it and see like what that does for you. There's nothing wrong with wanting to read more and look for knowledge, uh, there is nothing wrong with meditation. These are all great things. But bro, like, have you ever like, I don't know, like talk to like a these self improvement people where it's almost like they're so religious about it, and like every time I talk to a like a person from the self improvement community who's into this stuff, do you know, like, I ask them, like, well, for example, with me, like when I've come across this stuff, it's like, how can I use this stuff to become a better rapper, right?
Right.
To further benefit my music career, and to make sure that I'm confident enough to continue this path that I'm on. Like, I think that's a healthy way to use this stuff. But when I talk to like other people in the self improvement community, they're like, I want to be a self improvement coach, and then I want to, and then like they teach other people how to become self improvement coaches, and it just becomes like
It's
everyone
coaches
before
coaching coaches.
it's coaches coaching
Yeah.
coaches to coach coaches to coach coaches. And then it's just in a way it's become like a pyramid. Um, and it's I don't know, dog. And I think like that's one of the problems with it. It's just like, well, we can't all be coaches. Like there's other functions to this.
Yeah. Well, that
Um,
was the thing when we went to Grounding Man, Elliot Hulse's Grounding Man thing, right? Like,
hmm,
yeah, there's a lot of cool people there, like all into the same kind of thing, trying to improve themselves. But then there's also a bunch of people there who's like, oh yeah, I'm a coach getting coached by a coach right now to coach other people to be coaches. It was just like, um,
yo, can you tell people? Because me and you both went to this. Tell
yeah,
people, yeah, like tell people what Grounding Man is.
yeah. So Elliot Hulse, he's a YouTube personality. And for a while he was making like fitness content on one channel, and then he had advice to people. Like people would send him in questions. It was usually younger dudes who didn't have like father figures or either couldn't talk to their parents or friends about the certain things. And you would give them answers, whether it was about like fitness, women, drugs, whatever the hell they asked about, basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Shaheen even sent him a question once, and he responded with a video. Right?
Yeah,
Remember? Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so then after a while, he built up a pretty big following. Started having these events, which
Mm-hmm.
were called Grounding Camp originally, and those were co-ed. And me and Shaheen went to the first Grounding Man, which was only for men because Elliot felt that men needed specific work, I guess, or he saw more issues with men in society, and now he's taken it to whole new levels. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was pretty laid back. It was just kind of like, yeah, it's a group of dudes trying to go through an initiation thing, and basically we spent 3 days in upstate New York doing meditation and breath work and
Mm-hmm.
Osho ritual, you
Yeah.
know, like dynamic stuff, dancing.
Yeah.
Um, in between that, it was like we were provided like great nutritious meals, and we'd have like lectures on different subjects
Mm.
and around like self development, like whether it was about like what meditation's doing for you, what like improving fitness does for you, different like masculine archetypes
Yeah.
type of things, which is if anyone's looking for stuff on that, the book King Warrior Magician Lover is a great start. Um, and that's one of the books I would recommend. Actually, that's like an actual pretty decent book if you're looking into self development, at least for men. It's more they still, I mean, it still applies to women. It's just like you would change magician becomes priestess and king
Yeah.
becomes queen in that equation, but it's basically the same thing.
But in Grounding
Um,
Man, right? Like, because like that itself was like a self improvement event, right? Like you're
right.
talking,
Yeah.
and like I mean, like we obviously both. I would say we both had a great time. We connected with a lot of guys who we felt, they were similar to us, and
Yeah.
we did a lot of these, these great meditations. And like after, I remember like you feel great after, and I remember like I remember like shortly after the camp ended, like we went to Montreal, me and you, just
Yeah.
for hahas,
It was
and
the last day of it, right? Like
yeah,
Sunday. I think it was a Sunday afternoon. We
yeah,
drove
like
out.
Sunday afternoon we
Yeah.
went out, and I remember like, yeah, just feeling like this new level of confidence. This, I was like, holy shit, like, and it was cool. Like I saw, I tapped into like my highest potential, and Um,
Yeah.
what ends
To
up
me, it
happening,
felt to me it felt like a new door was opened, but that it was one that I could not keep open myself.
and
Is a
that's
good
what I
way to put it.
and that's like what I want to talk about because
Yeah.
whether it's Grounding Man or a Tony Robbins event or any of these like cool like motivational well I would say Grounding Man is not motivational, it's more like they're actually teaching you practical things, but but nevertheless, like these events, like they give you that high,
Mm,
like they get you
yeah.
so pumped up, and like like the meditations that we were doing, like it wasn't, I mean, like it wasn't just us sitting there going like it was literally us like
Yeah.
jumping around, screaming shirtless off the top of our lungs, beating our chests, and like shouting at each other's faces. And I mean, it's fun shit, don't get me wrong. And
Yeah.
that stuff does, like, I don't know, like if you believe in stuff like neurotic holding patterns and how that holds you back, like yeah, that stuff is empowering, but these are things that you have to consistently do. And I think the problem with self-improvement is that the people who search these forums and they're on these YouTube comments and they spend all day just watching YouTube videos, is that they're looking for a magic pill, you know they're because if you weren't looking for a magic pill and you were using the self-improvement stuff correctly, you would consume a little bit of this self-improvement content, which is fine, and then you would actually go out and apply it to your life. Like
Hmm.
you should be in the gym, you should be figuring out ways to, like, okay, or like you should be out there like executing and making mistakes and learning from them, because that's what self-improvement ultimately teaches you. One thing is that, like, it's okay to make mistakes as long as you learn from them. And
Right.
I noticed that, like, these people who come across this self-improvement stuff, is that they they consume the content because it gives them that dopamine rush, right? Like you feel great, but you don't but they don't execute, and there's actually no changes in their lives. They're in the same boat they were. They still hate their jobs. They still struggle with women. They still struggle with their social lives. They still struggle in many different the same things. Like it's almost like they're back to square one. They never really went anywhere.
Hmm.
Just kind of like the illusion that, like, they have, right?
Yeah.
Uh,
You get the dopamine hit, and it's just kind of like, oh yeah, I'm doing something for myself, and it doesn't actually end up doing shit for you. Aside from making you feel good for a few minutes or maybe a day or whatever, and then you're back to being like, oh wait, so I haven't actually improved. What the fuck am I doing with my life? Then it's like, oh, I
yeah.
need more motivation. Let's go watch another video.
Or let's pay like thousands of dollars to go to the next Tony Robbins event, right?
Right.
And
Yeah.
it becomes a drug. Uh,
Yeah.
and
100%.
So before we continue this, Fanush, kind of want to hear your thoughts on this. Like, have you ever? Because we talked about your friend before we went live, but uh, like, have you ever come across this stuff?
I've encountered self improvement and individuals that have partaken in self improvement programs, seminars, and all of these types of events. Um, my whole thing, and this actually ties into some of what you guys were talking about. And I wanted to bring it up and just wait until the right moment because, first of all, I wanted to hear actually from two individuals again who have actually been to something, what their experience was like before giving my input, because I feel like that was pertinent to discussion to get insight
Hmm.
from you guys who have actually been to these things. So, or at least witnessed or partaken in one event, I should say. In this case, my perspective on the whole self improvement, I want to say culture. I think that would be
Hmm.
the an appropriate term for it, rather than calling it like cult or like lives. It's
Right.
really culture that people partake in. I feel um, is I really think that okay. First, I'd like to say I think that it comes down to the individual. It's just like going to therapy. Okay, if you're not open to the therapy, you will gain nothing from the therapy. If that makes any sense. If you're going to resist everything that your psychologist suggested to you in order to heal and improve, then you're never going to get anywhere in therapy. It's a waste of your time. Now, I feel with self improvement, it's the same way. This is why you get people who go to self improvement seminars yet never improve. They go in with the mentality, like you said, like they're going to receive some sort of magical pill. Um, because a lot of what they teach you in self improvement, based on what I've learned and gathered from others, is actually things that are, I don't know, to personally to me, they're common sense.
Mm.
You know,
Mhm.
maintaining a healthy lifestyle should be common sense to someone. I'm not saying that you should go get ripped, but eating healthy foods and putting nutritious things into your body, just like taking care of a machine, is going to help to maintenance your body. It's going to increase the dopamine naturally in your body to keep you in a state where you feel more energetic, more more positive in your outlook, less depressed. Um, and self I'm not saying self improvement is worthless. They're giving you these tools that actually you could obtain on your own. It's just it's if they give you a tool and didn't teach you how to use it. Self improvement is supposed to teach you how to use those tools. And for those who do improve, they do learn to use those tools. But some people, it's kind of like they go there, watch, observe, get their high, and then they walk out of it. They don't improve. They end up going back. Like you said, it does become kind of a drug. And in that, when you in that scenario, it does become a situation where it's you get out of it what you put into it. And if you want to improve and you want to learn how to improve and sustain that improvement, then you're going to learn while you're there. If you don't and you go in with the wrong mentality, then like you guys said, you're not going to improve. And just like we talk about the body and the nutrients, the brain is also a well-oiled machine. What you put into it is and how you maintain it is going to affect how it operates. If you want to put garbage in your brain, then so to speak, then yeah, it's going to operate poorly and you're not going to learn the things necessary to improve yourself as a human being. But if you do absorb the things properly, I mean concepts, lessons, whatever you want to call them properly, then yeah, you're going to see sustained improvement. And not just because you attended a seminar, it's because you have an understanding of what was being given to you. You have an appreciation for what is now at your disposal and what's possible. And now you have a desire to achieve those goals and obtain whatever it is that you're going after, if that at all makes sense.
Yeah, it does. The thing is, like, I don't know if it's necessarily that people aren't getting the lesson. I think it's that when you go to seminars and things like that, it's almost like the environment is what informs like how you feel about something. So once you are out of that, it's like it's no longer true for you. Um, like those lessons, like when you're out in the real world, it's like, oh, there's no way I can apply this like when I'm going to like a 9 to 5, or like
Yeah.
for me, it was like probably the first 6 months afterwards, I was feeling pretty good, and then after a while, I was like, oh no, I still feel like a huge piece of shit. Uh, it's just that it was delayed, like, um, and yeah, I don't know what the answer to that is.
I can see where you're going with it, and I understand it. What I'm more or less trying to say is or I guess how I'm relating to what you guys are saying is some people in self improvement, based on what it's ideally supposed to be for, is so that they teach you tools to sustain it. But I feel like some
Mhm,
people are reliant on the reinforcement. So, like you said, when they leave that environment, instead
mhm,
of taking what they learn to self-reinforce these ideas. They're now in a position where, like you said, I don't know if I could apply this to this real life. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And in that case, they again become lost and then return to self-improvement, not really improving at all, but just
Mhm.
taking it as a fix, as their drug.
Right. Yeah. And there's a certain part of the whole, self improvement culture, if you will, that some people have labeled it toxic positivity, um, where it's like everything is supposed to be sunshine and rainbows, and like even if you're not improving, you're still, you're doing great, buddy. Keep it up. And it's like, no, you have to realize that you have to actually do shit. Like the whole,
That's a tough one. Yeah,
it's not
like
healthy.
I agree. It's not
That's
healthy.
part of the reason. Like I know Shaheen's a fan of Gary Vee. I'm not really a fan of Gary Vee. I think he's kind of like he does a little too much jerking himself off and everyone else. But that's just my take on him.
Well,
I think there's a little too much of that.
I think
Uh,
this is a word. I understand where you're coming from, and I agree that there's a lot of like Well, there's this concept of toxic positivity, and it can get kind of corny, and it might contribute to you like not having your eye on the ball, right? Like at the same
mm,
time, I see those world like I would say like you know some people like like they try to like try to understand what the difference between like pessimism is and realism is. And I think like what Gary Vee tries to do is we have parents who say you have like they limit you in your belief with yourself, like how you view yourself. Teachers, they limit you. uh we live in a type of culture where we I mean, we probably talked about this before. I think in our second episode where we talk about like characters, but
mm,
we kind of live in a culture where we worship celebrities.
yeah,
Half of the country worships a president. Where half of we constantly pray. We praise celebrities. We hate ourselves. So we find role models and and like when we see them we kind of like fantasize and we're like we kind of like we want to see a part of ourselves in them but we don't. And
yep,
I think like that's kind of like why we like look up to them to a certain degree. And I think like what people like Gary do, like Gary Vee, is like I mean like say what you want about him but he's basically just saying like you're great, like you know you don't you're better, you're great if not better than these celebrities. Like that person, like that's like that person that you think you would be if you were a celebrity or an Instagram influencer, like that's already in you, right? And I think like that's like and I think like that's one of the things with like positivity is like because I just feel like we don't have enough of it in the world, right? Like you turn on the news, what do you see? It's negative, right?
I wouldn't know. I don't watch the news, but
but you know but you know it is like it is like you'll turn on like CNN and well not yeah you'll turn on like 1 second yeah like you'll turn on CNN or Fox or whatever
mhm,
side of the aisle you're on and it's uh some type of negative news like they're like positive news is like boring, right? It's like you want like people want to hear about the pandemic, they want to hear about people dying, they want to hear about riots, they want to hear about and it's funny because in a way like we want this, you know like imagine if
mhm.
like CNN or MSNBC or Fox or any of these channels like started talking about positive things going on around the world. I feel like people will be bored. Like we for some reason like we're addicted, like maybe it's just the way our brains are wired, like we're addicted to just negative content.
Yeah, it was a
So
nice sunny day. A litter of 20 puppies was born in this town, and yeah, you can't.
yeah, it just
Yeah,
doesn't work. Like how do you sell that? So um and I think like that's why like positivity from the internet or like for people like Gary Vee or like these Tony Robbins people, it has its place. Oh, like let's not discount that, you know?
Yeah, well, I'm not saying positivity doesn't have a place. I'm just saying when it's coming from people like that, it comes across to, well, to me at least, as like fake or disingenuous in a way. Because
Yeah.
it's not providing a solution. It's just kind of like be positive. Like,
Well,
Yeah.
first off, I want to say that, I actually do enjoy some of Gary V's videos and some of his messages. But, there's things that I have concerns about, not just with Gary V, but with other people that take this, positivity approach as well.
mhm.
I want to call it sometimes, um, it's like the adverse effect of positive reinforcement. Because, for example, yes, I do believe that, for example, or otherwise I wouldn't be in the position that I'm in with music. But I do believe, yeah, you shouldn't believe everything everyone tells you about what you can and can't do. Some people just have their own fears projected on you and prevent you from doing positive things
Mm.
in your life, et cetera, et cetera. Yes, that's 100% true. I do believe in that, and there are people out there that do this. But see where the fine line is, and I'm playing devil's advocate here because just to see both sides. With
Yeah.
Gary V in particular, I've seen it, and I've seen it with other people in the culture, in the self improvement culture. They give you this false sense of security, or maybe this false sense of improvement. Like, for example, if I see I work in music, so if I see a rapper that's up and coming, right, or he wants to be, let's just say he's not even up and coming. Up and coming would imply that he's already kind of into it and he's getting his footing. Let's just say you want to start rapping, right? You just started. If I continue to tell you, great job, buddy, every time you do something without some sort of form of at least criticism or realism, or if you're doing a terrible job and I don't tell you, hey, this doesn't sound good, you'd be like, no, it's okay, keep going at it, keep going at it. You're getting there, buddy. That's great. Keep
Yeah.
Yeah.
at it. There's just a point where people just have to be, it becomes toxic because at some
I have
point you
experience with
have to
that. Yeah.
be real with someone in order for them to improve. You got to
Right.
tell them,
Mhm.
hey, this, excuse me being blunt, but this shit fucking sucks. Okay, you need to
Yeah.
go back in the lab and you need to work on this. Or if you've been doing this for 4 years and you haven't had a slightest improvement or breakthrough, you've got to realize and say, hey, I'm not good at this. Instead of you keep saying, hey, keep at it, buddy, you're doing a great
Right.
job,
Yeah.
and giving them this false sense of hope, which doesn't exist. I'm not saying Gary Vee necessarily does that, but when you're in a self improvement business and you're preaching positivity to people, you walk that fine line because there's certain people out there that will take that and they'll start to pump it into themselves like they really have that self belief that nothing can stop them, nothing, and they are improving when in fact they're really not improving at all. They're actually being hindered and remaining
Well,
stationary in life.
I was reading Russ, like like the rapper slash singer Russ.
Yeah,
I
I like
was
Russ.
yeah. I was actually reading his book, and there was actually something interesting he said, and I actually kind of agreed with it. And he was talking about like you should actually be delusional about how good you are, because and here's the thing, right? When I started in 2010, 2011, like when I started just like writing raps and recording in my basement, like even though like most people told me I sucked, which I did, uh I was still delusional enough to like to think like, but I'm still good, right? And
Mhm.
that delusion is what kept me like going, like because if I just believed that like, oh, like I suck, therefore I have no potential, I'm just gonna not do this, then I wouldn't really be here, right? I wouldn't really be doing like what I'm doing now. But I was delusional enough to like say like I'm good enough to keep going.
Yeah, they
And if
say it.
Yeah.
It's like you got to be crazy enough to believe you can make it in order to make it. I understand that wholeheartedly, but at that point, you still got to be honest with yourself. It's like I go into public. I'm not going to walk into public and tell people, yeah, I'm just okay. What kind of, especially in the hip hop game, you're going to want to come with the air of, even if you're not the best rapper, you want to walk like you are the GOAT. Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I believe in that wholeheartedly. That part is true, but like there has to be a certain point where you're honest with yourself. And sometimes
Yeah.
people can't be honest with themselves, because there's that fine line. Some people, you got to be crazy enough to make it, and that is true, to believe you make it, and that is true. It's 100% true. I believe that as well. But you also got to be practical in some sort of sense to like be like I mean, there's also a saying that hustle always wins over talent, because there's a lot of people out there that aren't necessarily good musicians, but at least they have the hustle. The hustle makes them outwork the more talented guy who may be lazy. So at least they're good at
Mhm.
something. They're like saying, okay, well, maybe I'm not the greatest rapper, but I can still make it because I got this grind. There's some practicality to it, but there's got to be something there. I and again, it's a case to case basis, but all I'm saying is that comes down to the individual. Now, when you're talking about, say, somebody, if you were in a position like a Gary Vee or Tony Robbins, you're not that person. Yeah, they have to kind of pump themselves up and lie to themselves. But you, as
Mhm.
a self improvement, guru, coach, whatever you want to call them, it's your job. I mean, not your job, but I don't want to say job. It's the responsibility, if you're really about your self improvement, to be honest about the stage of improvement where a person's at and tell them, hey, okay,
Yeah.
cool. You've got a little here, but you've got to get over here. But great job. Or
Yeah.
you could just say flat out, this is not working. You need to try this. Instead of just telling them that their same failed effort is working over and over again. I guess that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah, and that's the difference between like getting actual coaching and just going to a seminar for a few days where like you don't have any individual time with the person who's teaching you shit, right? Like I afterward Shaheen knows about this, but like I think it was January of 2018, 2019, when I got started coaching with it was one of the
Right.
guys from the camp that we
19.
went
Yeah.
to.
19. Yeah.
Yeah, 19. And like one-on-one coaching, and that was more impactful in some ways over the long run because it was like actually individually working on shit. It wasn't just like
Mm.
3 days of of pumped up meditations where I'm like, oh my god, this is amazing, and then like
Yeah.
nothing, and then nothing. It was like actual like daily shit you do, like what you do when you wake up,
Yeah.
how long you're meditating, when are you doing these things, what like how are you scheduling your day intentionally to
Right.
actually improve yourself.
At the same
Um,
time, though, and all that's great, and I'm really glad that it obviously helped you. But at the same time, I feel like and maybe I'm wrong, but and I won't say this about Ryan. I know Ryan's a good dude. But I think a lot of people who work in self improvement, uh, basically this, like they understand that you're vulnerable somehow, right? Like
right.
there's a reason why you're going to them, right?
Yeah.
And they understand that you're in an emotionally vulnerable and borderline like desperate area. So I personally feel that sometimes they'll take advantage of that.
Yeah,
And
I definitely got that impression from some of the other people we went to the camp with who like they messaged you too, some of them, but like they would message me afterwards and like try and set up stuff, and that's not to disrespect them in any way. They have, they have a job that they're trying to get done.
yeah,
But it was just like I got that vibe that it was different. It wasn't like with Ryan, it was like it was more like I was talking to a friend, and like he's not a bullshitter. He's like an ex-military guy, so I knew he wasn't gonna like sugarcoat shit for me. But there were other
yeah.
ones who messaged me, and I was just like, "This is fake as fuck." Like,
Well, I mean, again, like, but the thing is, like, I feel like what they do is okay, like and then they'll be like, well, if you're really serious about changing your life,
right? Yeah,
you would
yeah,
pay the $3,000. I mean, like, wouldn't you pay $3,000 to be happy for the rest of your? And it's shit like that about the self-improvement community that pisses me off, because at the end of the day, these guys aren't licensed therapists. They're not,
Yeah.
they, like, and that itself, like, what if you're trying to learn how to do like time management or work through specific issues, like, you could just go to therapy. Now, that being said, finding the right therapist is just, I mean, I get it. Like, it's like finding the right self-improvement coach. Like, yeah, there are a lot of
Yeah.
self-improvement coaches that will try to rip you off, and there are a lot of therapists who will try to get you on meds. Again, and I'm not even trying to say like there's something wrong with being on meds, but I feel like oftentimes like these therapists don't even care about what your problems are. It's like the first thing they want to do is just prescribe you something so they can get paid.
No,
And
that's
Right.
a whole different topic. Big
yeah,
pharma and
Yeah. Well, that was
exploitation, medical, pharmaceuticals. But to what you were exactly saying, that's where the dark side of self improvement comes in. Is that you have certain people that are out there, they're passing off self improvement techniques,
mhm. Yeah.
but it's really exploitation because they're taking advantage of, like you said, that void that you may have within yourself that you're trying to fill by improving. They see that, they take advantage of it and say, hey, like you said, why wouldn't you want to improve your life? Wouldn't you pay $3,000 to have a happy and healthy life the rest of your life? Come on in. Let me, like,
what's three
you need
thousand
to do
dollars?
this. What's
Yeah.
Yeah.
$3,000 when it comes to the rest of your life?
And granted,
So,
like, a lot of these guys who do end up paying that kind of money, like, no disrespect to them, of course, but we're not talking about the 1%. Like, these are guys who probably, like, they pretend, they
your
I
six pack.
I I I I can't really imagine, like, I look, man, like, I don't really see them as being like top earners, right? Um
Right.
and
They're gonna be exposing people who are not financially necessarily able to continue paying for something like that. It's people who need something and who may also need money, right? But
yeah.
because they need to improve themselves and that's a way to make more money to them, maybe they'll pay whatever they need to this person to help solve all their issues. And then it becomes a problem because, you might go in debt because you got coaching from somebody and they don't give a shit. They just got paid. Like,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, again, like, I feel like a lot of these issues could be just, I mean, and again, and not to discount some of the good self-improvement people there are out. I mean, there are good ones out there, like, don't get me wrong, like, you
right.
have Ryan.
Yeah.
But I feel like, again, a lot of these things you can learn from therapy. But I also think, like, and maybe we're getting deeper into this now, where a lot of these people who seek or who are involved in self-improvement tend to have a very anti-establishment kind of mindset. So therapy is part of the establishment. So when they seek self-improvement, they see it as like, they kind of see it as more of like an anti-establishment form of therapy.
Are you trying to give me therapy right
And
now, Shaheen?
and and this is like where it gets borderline toxic, and I think unfortunately Elliot Hall's understood this, and that's why he started diving into red pill, right? And uh
Right.
because that's like, red pill is all like, well, it pretends to be anti-establishment, and it pretends to hold all these anti-establishment views, where really I would just view it as establishment views on steroids. But um I mean, they have this whole like fuck society kind of approach to self-improvement, um MGTOW, and then on the inverse type of mirror kind of shit, you have like the incel movement, right? Which isn't self-improvement per se, but it's almost a byproduct of it. I don't know how to explain that. That's for another episode.
Yeah, I'll go into that way more in another
Yeah,
episode.
but
But for
yeah,
now, let's keep it pretty surface level with the red pill stuff because that's like I can talk for like 3 hours straight on that. Hopefully we won't have to, but
yeah.
we can. Um,
Wait, but hold on. Fanders, do you know anything about red pill?
I won't say that. I mean, I rather can't say that I know very much about Red Pill now.
So before we get into Red Pill, then, because like before we got on this podcast, we were talking about different quote unquote subgenres of self improvement, right? Like there's fitness, uh, there's a lot of this,
There's
yeah,
spirituality stuff. There's
spirits.
pickup, which
So
is
that's what
yeah,
I want to talk
Yeah.
about next. Pickup, because Weapon X talked about how his friend got involved in that, and there are many different. There are these types of people who teach this stuff. Now, that's an interesting one, right? And a lot of people, a lot of people put their self worth on something, right? So like let's say for example, we talked about fitness. A lot of people view the they measure their self worth based on how they view themselves in the mirror. So that's why there's a
mm,
lot of self help gurus in the fitness part of self help, right? Self improvement. Uh, but on the other hand, other side of the coin, there are men who measure their self worth based on the validation they get from women.
yeah,
And so I think to the guys list to the people listening in, there's this thing called the pickup world where they teach you how to quote unquote pick up women. Now naturally, this is an interesting one because if you're like because if you went to high school, I mean, which everyone I'm assuming who's listening to this
how dare you make those assumptions?
have.
How dare you?
But I'm saying like if you
I have a second grade education and proud of it.
Oh
Oh
Auto
man,
shit.
I'm
joke.
sorry. I'm sorry, man. I didn't mean to demean your second grade education. But but I would say like some people never really had to learn how to talk to girls. Like for some people, like for some guys, it just kind of came natural to them. Is like they've had a couple girlfriends in high school, and then in college they
Mhm.
just meet more people, and then they unconsciously they became more unconsciously they just picked up on more and more habits that kind of taught them how to communicate with women, right? Where a lot of dudes weren't as lucky, right? And they kind of had to seek outside help with that. So they might have had to talk to a therapist on how to talk to girls, or they might have had to ask for like help with, they might have had to ask for help from their friends who may have been more successful in picking up girls.
Right.
Uh, and what ends up happening is a lot of these guys stumble upon the pickup community and this and if you read The Game by Neil Strauss, you will, you kind of learn about the origins of this community and this culture. And this is actually fascinating stuff. And I feel like talking about pickup and this, these, the culture that came from it, we could dedicate a whole episode to that.
Yeah, it's its own culture within itself.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah,
subculture.
it's a
We don't have
subculture.
to go too in depth with it, but we can just give a basic overview for now.
Yeah.
Yeah, and again, I feel like this applies to a lot of what we were talking about when it comes to mental masturbation because in pickup there are theories like okay like you talk like there's different like there's like codes there's languages within these and many guys and I used to do this guilty is I would just like drown myself in like these like cool ass theories on like this works and that doesn't work and this is the science this is the biological science of what's going on here.
Yep.
But doing that is the equivalent of like reading a book on how to become a black belt, how to get a black belt in like BJJ, like Brazilian Jiu Jitsu.
Yeah.
And I remember, and when I was doing Krav Maga, like the school that I was going to, like also taught you BJJ. And I remember there was this guy who signed up, except it was just this one guy. It was kind of weird, and he would come into class and he would not participate. He would just like sit in the corner and just watch. He was like too scared to
Mm,
actually like be a part of class. And then like when I would go talk to him, he would be telling me, "Yeah, so I watched on YouTube that like this is the right move to make." He was telling me about like all these moves, but like he wouldn't
mhm.
actually like try it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Uh, and I think like with pickup, it's the same thing where, yeah, like you can talk to me about negging a girl. You can talk to me about uh performing these techniques, but you got to do them. And again, this all goes back to what we were talking about earlier this episode.
Trial and error experience, learning from, your mistakes. I mean, it is, when you really think about it, the pickup game, you're going to get turned down a lot of times before you finally get the techniques, so to speak, right. So you're going to have to, like, apply these approaches in order for you to not only utilize them effectively, but understand them as well up here. So yeah, it's like you said. I mean, you could read a billion books, watch a million videos, and know what it is, but if you've never tried them, it's practically useless. It's like having, I don't know, it's like having this webcam that's in front of me, but it's always turned off, and I decide never to do a podcast ever. It's useless.
Yeah,
Yeah. Or
absolutely.
it's like, you watch a video on negging or how to, respond to this question or shit tests or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then you go to do it and you're like, oh shit, wait, how do I approach? Oh wait, I
Exactly.
need more videos. Oh wait, how do I
Yeah.
do this now? Oh wait, nope. And you keep on going
But
back.
see, that's the interesting stuff, because as long as you're like applying and you're trying, it's actually okay later on to go back to those books or these videos and be like, okay,
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I had a question about this specific thing I may have done wrong. How can I improve? Right. So that's actually productive, and I like that. But I think there's something that like maybe we're all missing here, and with the self improvement stuff, and like because I talked about there are some people who measure their self worth and how they physically look. Then there are some people who measure their self worth by how much money they have, or how many women they have sex with, and but I think like what we're missing here is that itself is a problem, because we shouldn't be measuring our self-worth by how much money we have, or how many women you're having sex with, or how you physically look like. Again, like we're not like, and it comes to like this, like we worship celebrities because we have this idea that like they have all that, like
Mhm.
this like like this Bruce Wayne archetype that is rich, he's physically fit, he can kick ass, and he's like a billionaire playboy, Tony Stark kind of vision. And if we're not that, we're like useless pieces of shit.
Then you're a simp.
Then you're a simp. And I think again, there's nothing. I love, you should always strive to be the best version of yourself. And as you go on that journey, naturally you will attract the things that you will attract those things anyway, right? Because like if you're a dude and you're not, let's say you're not even focused on like women, but you're actually focused on just becoming the best version of you, women will come to you anyway. Like that's why, like, I don't think you need to learn pickup. If you just focus on becoming the best you, I think women are attracted to men who are driven anyway. And that to me, unless like you're unless you truly want to learn the art of pickup and going to like the bar and picking up anyone who you want and learning these techniques, fine. If that's your thing, fine. But uh I just think we're missing something here.
It again, it applies to the intent of the person that is pursuing the improvement. If you're going to pick up with the mentality of, I want to learn how to speak to women better, build more confidence, then it's going to be more productive for you. If you enter it with, oh, I just want to fuck as many bitches as possible and run through as many women, and you place your value on that, then that's how you're going to approach pickup and apply it, and that in itself then becomes negative.
Then again,
It's
well, then again, if you want to like learn pickup so you can like fuck as many girls as you want, that itself isn't bad. But it's bad if you're again measuring your self worth based
measure.
on it,
Yes, yes, that's what
Right.
I.
because
Because
like
if I mean, because if you're the guy who's trying to just fuck as many bitches as possible, not to be derogatory towards one, have consensual sex with as many women, females as possible. Let's make it
Coitus.
peace. Let's make it PC here. Um, if you're that guy and you're watching all these videos, like, oh yeah, I'm going to get it in tonight, and then you go out, and you just fail constantly, like that's like I'm not gonna say that like you're entitled to improvement, but there comes a point where like like for me, like the way it was for me, kind of, because I got into pickup a little bit too, or tried to. I was never interested in like getting laid necessarily. I just wanted to be like not like I wanted women to not be disgusted by me. That was the main
Oh,
the main thing. Um, but yeah, no, I just got dark.
whoa.
The dark side of self improvement.
Oh
Hello,
shit.
darkness, my old
Um,
friend.
but basically, there's a self awareness you need to have around what actually needs improving as opposed to like what you're trying to work on.
Bingo.
That's a probably the best way I can put it. So if you're trying to, with anything you're doing, right? Yeah, you can work as hard as you possibly can on that singular task. But if that's not actually what you should be doing to improve that thing, it's not going to matter. Like,
Which I think
um,
why it's so important. This is why I'm like, for example, if we're gonna talk about women. Um, it's weird because a lot of guys who stumble upon these pickup things, they it's because I feel like a lot of these guys don't even want to be the guy who like has sex with a lot of girls. I think a lot of them are just trying to learn how to connect with women so they can find their partner, right?
right,
And again, that's something I feel like you can work with a therapist. Like if you're a guy who struggles with women, being like, look, but again, self awareness becomes a part of it. He's like, look, I realize that for whatever reason, like a guy could say like, this guy could just be like, so why am I in the friend zone often? So I must be doing something wrong, and I'm trying to. I what I value is finding a partner, a relationship. So there must be something I'm doing, and maybe it would be beneficial if I spoke to a therapist about that, right? Instead
right,
of, again, no disrespect to these pickup guys, but instead of like paying a few $1,000s to learn a skill that you probably might not even need. Most guys, 99% of guys who marry and reproduce and have kids don't learn pickup. They don't. They don't.
yeah,
They haven't
yeah,
read the game. They haven't read the game. They haven't fucking
exactly.
like, and like even the guys who like struggled in high school or even college, like they eventually like, and like if finding someone and reproducing and like having kids is what they want, eventually they will do it. But I mean, that might mean they might need some outside help a little bit, like maybe some like cool, maybe some help from a therapist or a friend who might have more experience in that field. But this idea that there's this culture that will charge you like thousands of dollars, like and again, they know you're in pain, right? Like they see that this guy is lonely, he's desperate to find someone, he hates himself because this person feels like he's not able to attract the type of women he wants. So i will I will fucking like charge this guy like 10 grand. What's
Yeah,
10 grand? 10 grand? Like, would you pay 10 grand to meet the love of your life? And again, like
And
this is the tactic they use.
this is where this is where it's toxic, because this is where people that are marketing themselves as self improvement are not really self improvement gurus. They're really people marketing something to you to fulfill a false need within you to profit. And
Correct.
in that way, I don't know if you've ever looked into it, but that's exactly what you're talking about with the pickup. Is exactly what they do in Scientology. They literally tell you that people that are don't have a whole lot going on in their lives, you can go and save the world, but you got to invest this much in it. And I can go into
mhm,
Scientology in a whole nother level. I'm just trying to make the parallel just for the sake of this discussion. But and like you said,
Correct.
I
No, I see. Yeah.
matter of fact, I can tell you for a fact. This is my personal opinion, but I feel like it has some merit to it. With pickup in particular, you really okay. If you want to study pickup to pick up women initially and see, go ahead and communicate with women and initiate conversations, so forth, and take them to bed. I suppose for the first couple of times, that's fine. But if you actually go into deep into pickup and you read it, it doesn't tell you how to sustain a
No.
relationship, and it doesn't teach you how to connect. In fact, it teaches you more, which is kind of to be distant, keep yourself mysterious, and then to pull away when it, and you don't get valued human relationships like that. In a way, it's, I don't know. I guess it's
Yeah.
what you're placing value in. If your value, you place your value in yourself as to how many women you can pick up and how many you can get in life, then I guess that's fine. That's the goal. But if you really look at a self improve, build relationships with people, connect with a woman, and so forth, I actually would recommend that I'd rather someone go to a psychologist, get therapy if that's what your need is. Because to me, you'll improve yourself more overall as a human being if that's the route you decide to take. And you technically don't need pickup, like you said. I've seen people that have never talked to a woman in 30 years, awkward as heck, and then they find their dream woman. They just happen to be the right place, right time, and that one person connected with them, and they were able to build
Mhm.
and interpersonal relationships. That being said, stepping aside from that, just keeping it focused on self improvement, it's really what your intent is. If you want to self improve as a human being, and what you're putting value into is actual self improvement, then okay, um then that's, then I see that as being healthy. But if you're placing your value in all the wrong things, yeah, sure, you might learn some techniques on how to obtain those things, but they're not really improving you. And I feel like that's
Right.
what a lot of the dark side of self-improvement is. You get these gurus, like some people I can genuinely, or at least I think they can genuinely, I can genuinely tell mean well, like Tony Robbins. I think that guy really does get some fulfillment. Now he does charge. I'm not gonna say he doesn't and he doesn't make his money, but I guess like the Joker said, if you're good at something, never do it for free, right? Guy's
Mm.
gotta make a living somehow. But at least he's doing it to where most of the people that you've seen that come out of a Tony Robbins program emerge in a positive way, and most of them seem to be able to sustain their success. So I guess that's proof
Mhm.
to me in a way that yes, this is someone that's actually preaching self improvement on a positive level. But then you get these guys who market self improvement. And to them, now it's just a business. You're not actually trying to help people improve. It's about drawing in as many people with a need to improve and maybe have their belief or their intents in the wrong places. They're placing their value in the wrong type of areas for their own self improvement, preying on that, and then making a profit and money off them. And that is just bullshit to me. Though that's where you get the toxic and dark
Yeah.
side of self improvement. I think those people. That's why when you do seek self improvement, find out before you even go to anybody what it is that you need to improve, who you really want to be, and have some understanding of what you want before you seek out help from someone. And then when you do, regardless if it's therapy or self improvement, find out what these people are all about. Are there real results in there? Or are these people just the cult of personality feeding you bullshit?
And also don't like, because a lot of these self-improvement people will, like, from what I've seen, like they'll always have like these testimonials on their website of people like talking about their results, and of course it's always going to be positive. Like obviously, like you're not gonna like put a negative review on your website, so just be mindful of that. But also, what I wanted to touch upon was self improvement. That itself is like, it's a very vague concept, because I mean, oftentimes it breaks down to spirituality, physical fitness, and picking up women, right? And like, but I feel like self improvement, it could be like really anything, and like this is like when it could actually, in my opinion, be productive. Like for example, like self improvement, like me and Weapon X are both rappers, so uh I rap, like, and every day I practice and write more and try to get better. And then what I would do is like, I will listen to other artists, study the way they flow, the way they break and bend words and shit like that. Like you could argue like that's like real self-improvement, like there's a specific thing that you want to master, so you try to learn how to do that and actually apply it, right? But and
Mhm.
there was this one guy I listened to. I think I forgot who it was, and he said that you cannot measure spirituality, right? Like you cannot like like if you were to do like a blood test or stand on a scale or whatever, that scale cannot tell you how spiritual you are, right?
Yeah.
But you could get better at like just skills, right? And I feel like again, like self improvement is geared towards feelings. You want to feel good, but instead, maybe what we should be focusing on is just skills that you feel would bring you to the type of lifestyle you want, and that's different for everyone. So, like with me, because I want to be a famous rapper, or I should take that back. I want to be a successful
Fulfilled rapper.
successful, fulfilled rapper who makes a living off what I do, but while at the same time not going insane. Uh,
Mm.
I try to learn like what's okay, like what do I need to learn to get to that level? Like, okay, I need to be good at what I do musically. I should probably learn how to edit videos, so I practice editing. Like so these are
Yeah.
skills. Uh,
You need a song featuring Skylar Grey.
don't hate on Skylar Gray, man. She's
Oh, I'm not
good.
hating on her at all. She's great.
Yeah, she's great.
Um,
Um,
and like there was a video you sent me a couple months ago. It was like I don't remember whose video it was. It was really good though. It was about like the dark side of self development or whatever it was called.
yeah,
And it was saying like one of the main problems is because it's so vague. Like anyone who like, first of all, the big problem is you think you have a problem with yourself.
mm,
That's where it starts, right? Like the fact that you even have that issue with yourself is what you should be addressing,
I
not
think
necessarily
everyone
looking
thinks
for
that.
just like random
Mhm.
solutions to it.
I think
Um,
everyone thinks that. Yo,
and
if we didn't have that, like if that wasn't a massive problem in our society, that I feel like we wouldn't have celebrities, we wouldn't have influencers, we wouldn't have.
I mean, we probably would have fewer of them. I think we still would have some people who like achieved more in some capacity that we like could look up to, but
Right, but
we
we wouldn't be on their
we
dicks.
wouldn't be worshiping Kim Kardashian's like ass. Put it that
Right.
way.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. It'd be like genuine achievements as a human being, not,
Right.
shit like that.
More so than ever, that's the society we live in right now. I feel like they, society as a whole, wants to break people down instead of build them up. Or if they do want to build you up, they break you down first and make you believe that you're broken down before they say, okay, now here's what we can give you to build you up.
Right. Yeah. And going along with the therapy like I'm not going to say that I'm not going to discount therapy because I've never gone to it. I have no experience with it. Um, my whole thing with it is personally like the reason why I never went to it. It wasn't just that I didn't want to be on meds. It was that going to therapy to me, like just talking to a random person who doesn't know me, was not going to like I didn't feel like that would be fulfilling in any way. Like I would much rather have discussions with like my friends or family about shit than just like go to a therapist, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like that's another thing. Like a lot of the people who seek out self improvement might not necessarily have people in their life they feel like they can talk to. So then when there's a guru who comes along and says like, "Oh, I can solve all your problems," it's like, "Oh, finally, I have this, this person cares about me." But
Right.
do they?
Yeah.
Most of the time, probably not.
No, because you talked about like you're talking about like a therapist who might not know you. You don't find that fulfilling, but like I mean, the same could be applied to a self improvement coach.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I'm saying like the type of people who could use therapy probably find like the guru first.
Right.
Yeah. And you know what? Different things are therapeutic. I mean, therapy doesn't necessarily, I mean, I know a lot of us through, or us in particular, throughout this discussion, have been referring to therapy as it relates to therapists like a psychologist or a psychiatrist in the case of getting medication. But there are a lot of things you can do, even if you don't want to go to a conventional therapist, that you can do to seek therapy. Like self meditation is therapy. You may not
Yeah.
trust yourself to go to speak to someone, or you may not believe in that kind of thing, but sitting there and being alone with your thoughts and getting in touch with yourself, so to speak. I know I'm going to get clowned for using that term, but like, but no, I mean, really, sitting there and acknowledging one's feelings and being trying to be peaceful and a state of tranquility, that's also therapeutic. What me and Shahid do, go in the booth and spit. A lot of that is our personal struggle that is in our lyrics. A lot of it is what we're going through, releasing that. That's therapy. So I just want to like clarify, for people that may be listening, that when you are seeking out therapy, maybe seeing a therapist isn't for you, but maybe therapy itself is. Find something
Right.
that you can
Mhm.
redirect that energy that you're feeling into, that will make you feel fulfilled, that will make you feel better. And
Yeah.
overall, if it makes you, I can't, overall, if what you're doing, and I stress this because I have to for people who want to take this in a different direction, if what you're doing is not harmful and it's making you
Yes.
feel better, there's nothing wrong with it. Go study a martial art. That's therapeutic. I don't care if it's going and watering your plants in your garden. That's therapeutic. Anything you can do to reach a more tranquil state and be able to cope with anything that you're feeling inside that you feel may be bothering you, or some inadequacies that you may or falsely may believe that you have in some cases.
Hmm.
Go about doing that, figure out what makes you happy, seek that out, and become happy. That's the
Yeah.
simplest way I can put it.
Yeah. It's like this Sunday we had a snowstorm, and literally in the middle of it was like, I need to get the hell out of the house. So I went on a hike in the middle of the snowstorm. Went up on a mountaintop and just sat there and chilled out. And it was fucking awesome.
Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Oh, nothing
God,
wrong with that at
sometimes you
all.
gotta do shit.
Yeah. Dude, there have been times I like driving sometimes. I know people
Mm.
think I'm crazy because they hate sitting in traffic or whatever, but dude, there have been nights where I've literally just driven randomly around freeways when nobody is out,
Mhm.
hitting
Yeah.
different speeds and just being alone on the road, and that was tranquil to me.
Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
just don't go like over 120 and get yourself or someone else killed.
I,
Yeah, I know.
Well,
I
Shaheen,
will
they don't have
drive
to worry about
responsibly.
he doesn't have black ice in California, so he's not gonna
That's
he'll
true.
probably be fine.
That's true. They
We
don't.
have blackouts.
Well, yeah. Then
Yeah. Drive responsibly. Please don't drink. Don't take medication. Uh,
Yeah.
and
Drink,
most
don't drive.
and most importantly, be mindful even on the freeways of pedestrians, because I know it's sad to say, but they run on the streets sometimes on the
Oh
freeway.
shit.
I Yeah, random. I mean, crazy shit. Off topic, just for a second. But I remember a couple
Mhm.
weeks ago, I was going to work. Traffic was held up. I was late an hour and a half to work, even during the pandemic. Why? Because I don't know. I don't want to call him a nutcase because maybe he had a legit reason. I don't know. Maybe someone was chasing him. Maybe he just lost it. He was on drugs. Oh, who knows? But he ran on the freeway. Someone hit his ass, and next thing they got to do the procedure. I'm not going to go into
Mhm.
detail, but I'm sitting there waiting to go to work. I'm on the phone with my boss. Yep, I'm not bullshitting. You guys have phones now. You can check the traffic report. I'm late. I'm stuck here. And that's the thing, that they can check your phone now. People, if they really want to, it's like, you're stuck in traffic. Yeah, I'm not bullshitting. Go ahead, pull out your phone. Or you could say do the opposite. I'm stuck in traffic. No, you're not. There's no traffic on this fucking freeway.
Right. Fair enough.
Oh shit.
Yeah. All right, guys. So I think we're gonna wrap it up for today. I mean, this is one of those topics where
There are
number
many branches to discover along the way.
this could be itself a series.
Yeah.
Do
I
so responsibly.
yeah, I think
Improve
Sean,
yourself responsibly. There you go.
I say that meaningfully, by the way, because one of my favorite books is the 48 Laws of Power, which he is currently reading.
yeah.
Mr. Shaheen right there.
I have
And
it. I have not read it.
and let me tell you something. The person that introduced it to me and told me these very words. They're like, what you get out of this book depends on the intent you have when you read it. She's like,
Mhm.
good people that read these books, this book, usually tend to improve their lives. People with evil intent that read these books turn to manipulative assholes.
Mm,
And
absolutely.
I actually picked up the book out of interest, and the little devil inside me wanted to say, how can I manipulate people with this? The 48 Laws of Power. But as I began to read it, my whole thought process changed. I actually begun to realize this is really applicable to things that I have going on in my life that I thought were wrong, or like, those, things I want to fix. And it turns out once I was done reading the book and applying a lot of these things, I no longer have a desire to like do anything malicious with this book. I actually feel like, these things are very valuable towards my own self improvement, things that make me a better person. That's what led me to read Robert Greene's other books, which I only one that I
Mhm.
don't own is Mastery, which I've read, but I don't own it. But they're
Mm.
all great books. If you do want to study some sort of self improvement, I'll at least recommend Robert Greene from experience. He's probably my favorite author, period. And there's some very relatable examples in this book on how they apply to real life and not just spewing the same old rhetoric that you hear all over the place. But anyway, that's an advert for fucking Robert Greene's book, shameless plug. And no, I didn't get paid to do
Yeah.
that.
No,
Yeah.
I mean if you're gonna consume that positive stuff, a lot of it are actually just knockoffs of like some classics. So if you're gonna get into this stuff, go for like the classics, go for the originals. So I'm actually reading a book right now called Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and this is like the
Mhm.
original self-help book, right? So this is like the self-help books of self-help books, but it's actually like a lot of the stuff you'll find today in these current self-help books are all just like knockoff versions of, I feel like, Napoleon Hill's book. It's like the power of belief, power of desire, and
Yeah.
all
There's
those.
like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
That's a classic one
Um,
you should read too.
there's
Yeah.
The Way of the Superior Man.
Yes, that's a great one.
Iron John's pretty good. Um, I mean, all the ones I'm saying are like
That itself is a name right there. Iron
right.
But
John.
but I
But
feel
these
like
are, I mean, but for general self improvement, like the ones I'm saying are like, it's more or like surround. It's more for men. There's
that's if
like
you're
general,
interested. Yeah, that's if
yeah,
you're like interested in tapping into a certain
yeah.
personality
How to win
trait.
friends and influence people. Dale Carnegie, right?
Yeah, that's a good one.
Um, trying to think of what other ones do I have over here.
The Quran.
I do have the Quran and the Catholic Bible and the U.S.
you
Constitution and other writings.
you could
Um,
argue that those are all self help
in their own ways,
In their
yes.
ways.
in their
Yeah,
own
I
way.
Um,
agree with him.
oh yeah, I have the 48 Laws of Human Nature too, but I think I have to read the 48 Laws of Power first.
I don't think you do. They're all kind of like their own
Is it the
thing.
same book and I just bought it twice? So just told me.
I never read it, but
Oh shit.
all right, guys, we're gonna wrap this episode. We're gonna conclude this for today's episode. If you listen to this whole thing, we love you. If you didn't, well, fuck you. No, I'm
No,
kidding.
no, 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 no. We still love you, just a little less.
Yeah, but they wouldn't know because they're not listening. So we can say whatever we want.
And even though they're not a sponsor yet, I just want to give a shout out to Royal Crown Cola because Shells and Kings. There you go.
Yes, yes. All right, guys. Until next time. Peace out.
Peace.
Improve yourself.
Prove yourself.